morning, everybody, or good afternoon, I should say. My name is Ahmed Bishara. I am Professor of Chemical Engineering at Kuwait University. I'm glad to head this session. This session, according to the notes, talks about the new trends in open university learning and how it relates to international experiences in different countries. We have 4 speakers today. I'll start with each one of them, introduce him and then, or her, and then move to the other one, and so on. The first one is Dr. Marwa Sha'arawi. Marwa Sha'arawi is ITC lecturer at Arab Open University in Cairo, in Egypt. She has an MA and a PhD candidate at Cairo University, and spent many years teaching and lecturing computer science and information technology in many British universities, like British University in Egypt, the Middle East University in Dubai, and Sharjah University. Okay, she works on research and on ITC and networking. So Marwa, please. Everybody has about 20 minutes, so if you can cut it shorter, it gives more time for the audience to respond and ask questions.
Well, good morning. Actually, because I'm the first one, it always goes that you have to break the ice between you and the audience. But instead of breaking the ice, I will make something else. I will give you the chance to share my thoughts, to share some of my questions. So maybe instead of breaking ice, maybe I can find some solutions with you for my questions. This paper called Toward Effective Integration of Virtual Learning Environments and Blended Learning. What's new in that? You have heard many times, and you have a great knowledge about the blended learning, you have a great knowledge about e-learning and virtual learning. So what I have to do here? Well, let me first thank my co-authors, Professor Amir Zaid from American University of Kuwait, and that we wish that he could be able to be here today, and my colleague, Ms. Amira Fuad, as well, because this is a collaborative work between 3 of us. Well, so let's go to my thoughts. Everybody now is believing in e-learning, and everybody now say that e-learning is a solution of all the educational problem and all the learning problems. But out of my experience, out of my little teaching experience, and by each semester, I always have some questions, such as, if we are in a blended learning system, and if we are going to introduce some courses, especially in computer science courses, what can we do with the practical part? How can I learn my students coding, and how can I monitor the performance of my students when they are doing and develop softwares? Okay, another question is, if we have a mathematics courses, for example, or if we have some analytical courses, how can we give the students extra exercises? And we keep every term, by the beginning of every term, making meetings, calling the director and calling the vice rector of academics, asking, are we permitted to make workshops? Are we permitted to offer them a lab or extra sessions? And the answer was always no. We are restricted with the regulations, we are restricted with the framework of blended learning, we are restricted with the framework of e-learning. So, and we kept also have the same questions from the students. How can I answer all these problems with my own? I need more practice, okay? So, we also have some another questions, which is, when we always ask the students, do you prefer the classical learning, which is the face-to-face learning style, or the e-learning, they directly answer with face-to-face. And this, if I ask you also the same question, you will have a deep inner inside voice say face-to-face. Okay, why do you like the face-to-face? Why don't you go to the e-learning? Although you are believing in e-learning. I'm not a strong believer, by the way, of the e-learning. The e-learning is totally marginalized. The attendance and the engagements of the tutor and the participation of the students with their tutors, it's totally eliminate the chance of interacting with each others. It just transfer all the materials and all the content, all the knowledge from being a paper-based or from being a face-to-face tutoring and lecturing or even teaching to be just an electronic box of materials. This is not tutoring at all, and this is not education at all. Just transferring a material instead of being in a hard copy to be an electronic copy, this is not teaching. Okay? So, they said that there is always a solution, and the solution here comes out of the technology. So, as technology always has a solution to overcome all the problems, and especially in educational problems, I figure out some solutions. Let me enhance this solution and introduce it to you. And let me tell you and share you all the thoughts and ideas that I may have. Type. Toward effective learning of integration, what this paper talk about. So let me ask you another question, because you are all believer in e-learning. Did Socrates choose, was it Socrates' choice to choose Plato to be his student? Okay, was it Plato's choice to choose Socrates as his tutor? Either way, it does not matter at all. Do you have any answer? مين اختار مين؟ هو اختاره يكون أستاذه ولا التاني اختاره يكون تلميذه؟ طب why? Why he did not just simply give him the materials and go through it? طب another question, although we are all believing in the e-learning, why there's still some people send their daughters and sons to universities? ليه? Knowledge? You can't take the knowledge, as they said, from the e-learning system. Do you have any answer? Sorry? Trust. They said that all the modules are well designed and tailored to fit all types of students. So you can trust the e-learning system, as they said. Social interaction, great. Okay, let me ask another question.
They're supposed to ask the questions, not you.
I said that I need to break the ice, and to break the ice, I will give you the chance just to share some of my questions. Okay. Why are all prestigious universities, just like Cambridge or even Harvard, don't switch all their educational system or learning systems to be e-learning systems? ليه؟ الجامعات دي معقولة تكون لسه لحد دلوقتي مش عارفة إن السيستم ده is a very worldwide system and it's a very popular and efficient system to deliver education, a best quality of education to the students? أكيد لا. أكيد لا. أكيد there is something. With which system? Yes, I know, Harvard. Which system? Is it blended system or blended system? And there is a great difference. There is a great difference between blended system, between e-learning system, because e-learning system is a totally dummy technological system that is switch all the materials to be just an electronic box of materials without any interaction. It marginalizes all the interactions to zero. Okay, as a solution of that, we have just to realize that the main problem of e-learning system is the missing part of engagement, the human being engagement. Ya jama'a, we are human. We cannot deny at all the need of a human being, which is being a part of the all. The engagements, only 2 minutes left? The engagements. So, engagement to the systems, interacting with each other, with tutor, with colleagues, because simply when you learn, you give what you are, you give what you have in mind, you give your personality, you shape someone else's personality, which is your student. Okay, when we're talking about the evolution of technological methods or technological styles in the educational process, we have to stand for 3 keywords, which is the e-learning, the virtual learning environments, and blended learning. We have to talk about the e-learning, and it has too much advantages as well as the limitations that we have discussed already. The answer of overcoming all the limitations of the e-learning system was the virtual learning systems. The virtual learning environment is a virtual environment, totally computerized virtual environment that mimic all and everything have been done in the real world. So you can go to build all your own virtual environment, your own virtual campus, your own virtual classes with cameras, materials, tools, and your own virtual presence. You can be there virtually by something called avatars. Avatars tutoring are a simulation character that mimic the tutor with the characteristics of the tutor, as well as mimic the students with the characteristics of the students. Virtual learning environment is not limited at all. It's limited only by human being imaginations. فأنت تقدر تعمل كل اللي أنت عايزه وتكون زي ما أنت عايز تكون provide what you want to. One of the most successful virtual learning environment is the Second Life. Second Life بتقول إنه let's imagine that you have the chance to live another life, a second life, a second virtual technological experience life. How can you imagine it? Educational wise, most prestigious universities just like Harvard, Cambridge, and even the Open University in UK build their virtual campuses on the island of Second Life. Second Life provides you the land, it provides you the sea, and all the constructions that enable you to build your environment. So, because engagement is the most common fact that it comes to solve the e-learning concepts, it has 5 different learning styles, 5 different learner engagement styles: demonstration, experimental, diagnostic, role play, and constructives, in order to enable you to do all what you want. Second Life have extra tools than our traditional tools. Not only presentation, not only keyboards, not only presentation screen or whiteboards, but it have a virtualized classrooms with a virtualized camera and mics as well. It have also a chalkboard which enable you to chat with your tutor. Thick book copier to take as much as you can copies of your books. Photo display board and blame board to share photos and to brainstorming your ideas, so you can see all your ideas moving around you in the world of virtual life. We have also the name tagging feature in order just to know yourself, to introduce yourself to others, and to know other avatars. I'll give you a quick, only a small shots because we are limited in time, just to imagine the life in Second Life. Voice, please. The voice, please.
Irrelevant and unproductive. Clearly, it's time to rethink the method by which educators deliver knowledge to learners. Traditional lectures do little to hold the interest of a generation weaned on MTV and World of Warcraft. Enter Second Life, where learners become immersed in their own education. Second Life is a 3D virtual world that can provide and deliver a unique educational setting. Meet Ruth A. Boucher, Lizo, and Marissa Moody. We are your guides to some exciting educational experiences happening in Second Life. Join us as we take you on a guided tour of some fascinating ways that the world of education is being transformed in this interactive virtual world. New visitors to Second Life are dropped at Orientation Island, where they are taught the basics of navigating the terrain and communicating with others. After learners become familiar with the basics of Second Life, it's easy for them to suspend their sense of disbelief and feel immersed in their environment. This makes Second Life an ideal tool to practice role-playing as an instructional tool. At Renaissance Island, learners can enter into the world of a Shakespearean play and interact with the other characters. Be sure to wear your period costume. Or imagine visiting Roma, where you might take part in a reenactment of the pageantry, holidays, and gladiator combat of ancient Rome. How else could students so easily experience a period of history as when they are immersed in a virtual replica of it, and talking to other avatars about the landscape and the situations they encounter? In Second Life, students can participate in a virtual scavenger hunt in which they locate information relevant to their field of study. They might search for objects that have definitions attached to them, a fun, interactive way to build vocabulary. Or they might learn to identify works of art by locating particular pieces in a gallery. Wouldn't it be great if instructors could take their students on guided tours of the fascinating places they are studying in their real-world classrooms? With Second Life, students can tour replicas of locations they would otherwise never visit. The Sistine Chapel, or the inside of a Dell computer, all without setting foot outside of their real-world classroom. Many educational venues offer a virtual sandbox similar to this area in English Village, where students can experiment with building objects and environments.
Sorry. Well, I will be satisfied only with this part as we are limited in time, and we'll complete our presentation. So, did you like avatars? Did you like the nature of Second Life? Do you feel comfort with Second Life? Can we make it as our learning environment? Yes, we can. It gives us the feeling of engagement. Why don't feel comfort? Why can you use it? It can host the engineering studies, for example, the lit lecture. Okay.
No.
Let's
no
make the
questions.
questions. Okay.
No comments, no questions.
Some people feel comfort with Second Life, while other people, and this is a great advantage to feel comfort with other life, or to be available 24/7 even on your Second Life environment. It's also very useful to go for the technical education, just like engineering, just like medicine, so the students can go to the heart of a human being, for example. I can construct a labs to practice some codes with my students. I can give the students of engineering the materials, and even the students of literature, they can attend a virtual play of Shakespeare, for example. But with all these advantages, there are some catastrophic limitations. The technology. It is a very high technical environment. Not all tutors can be able to work in this environment. Not all tutors can be able to construct this environment. Students, as well as, if we suppose that the university will be constructing this environment, students cannot work with their avatars. So what is the solution of overcoming this problem? All of us know the blended learning. Blended learning is mixing between face-to-face tutoring and online. So, the solution is an enhanced blended learning. If we say that blended learning is online learning plus face-to-face, so why not to make more blending? Why not to add our flavor to it? Why not to add the portion of virtual environment and to have our enhanced blended learning model in order to get much more impact and much more enhancement to the blended learning system? We can use the Second Life. Yes, it's done already. Okay. Second Life, we can integrate the model of blended learning to the SODL, which is the Second Life model. We can arrange an extra office hours in Second Life for our student, and all of it will be virtually, so students overseas can share us. We can do extra revisions, we can use extra class discussion, debates, and so on. People, for example, for my courses or even for graduation projects, students, say, مثلا, from branch of Bahrain, can do a group for a graduation project or for any project with students in Cairo. And it will still remain only one project and still remain only one group. So instead of being an AOU separate islands, let's make our own island, the AOU virtual island. Let's have our own virtual avatars in order to enhance our blended learning. With respect, we will have the same quality of teaching. The more quality of teaching, we will preserve all the regulations, will not invoke anything. Thank you so much. Last but not least, please never ever forget that we are human beings, and human being and interaction is a very important role in our life. Thank you.
Thank you, Marwa, for interesting, very illuminating presentation. I now call on David Humphreys from the Open University in the UK. David is a reader in environmental policy at the Open University in the UK. He's going to talk to us today on the environmental applications to open learning. Please, David.
Okay, thank you very much for the introduction, and thank you very much, Marwa, for breaking the ice. And one of the things I took from Marwa's presentation is that when you teach, you give what you are. So how would I define myself? Well, one of the ways I would define myself is that I'm an environmentalist. I'm very concerned at what's happening to the global environment. For the last, much of the last 7 years, I've been the qualification director of the Open University's undergraduate degree in environmental studies. What I'd like to do is share with you this morning just some of the ways in which we've tried to engage our students with the subject of environmental degradation and the students' role in environmental degradation, and how they can rethink their agency and try to make a difference for the better in how they relate to the natural world. So, as I say, I come from the Open University. We pride ourselves, as we heard from Tim Blackman yesterday, on being open to people, open to places, open to methods, and open to ideas. And our mission is that we promote educational opportunity and social justice by providing high-quality university education to all who wish to realise their ambitions and fulfil their potential. And that phrase, social justice, is absolutely central. Promoting social justice. How can we as a university promote social justice, and in particular on the environment? How can we engage with what I would argue is the greatest public welfare and the greatest justice issue of our age, an issue that has intergenerational dimensions, which is climate change and the degradation of the global environment? How can we engage with this as an issue of justice? So after this introduction, I'm going to outline 3 ways in which we've sought to teach environmental issues, 3 of many examples I could have chosen, and how we try to engage our students more fully in these issues and to rethink their role as concerned individuals and citizens. That'll be food choices, how we choose the food that we buy. International negotiations, a module on which we ran a live simulation, and climate modelling. And I'll finish by drawing an important distinction between environmental education and eco-pedagogy. And I think this is a key distinction in how we think through how we teach the environment to our students. So the first example is quite a simple one, really. we teach students to think about the environmental consequences of how they buy food. And there's a three-step exercise to this. Students have to audit their food choices, they have to analyse the environmental consequences of their choices, and they then have to consider how they can act in the future to minimise the environmental consequences of their food choices. This is used to teach concepts such as ecological footprint. That's the ecological space needed to support the consumption of a social actor, be it an individual, a business corporation maybe, or a country. Food miles, the total number of miles that food travels before it's consumed, from farm to fork, as it's sometimes called. The land use, the water, and the carbon emissions that are involved in that. And we ask our students to think through environmental change over time and space, and how changes are differentiated over time and how they press down more or less firmly in some spaces than others. And we ask students to think about the risks and uncertainties of environmental change. So to start with, this is a multiple cause diagram that one of the lecturers on the course drew up on how she makes her food choices. And you can see that these sort of factors that come in there are personal values, beliefs in, for example, in where food should come from. Should it come from supermarkets and travel vast distances with heavy food miles? Or should one go for perhaps more voluntary simplicity, buy locally, local self-provisioning? And food choice is shaped in part, of course, by geography. It's shaped where we live. We don't have a sort of perfect choice on the food we buy. We have to take into account convenience and things like that. Once students have evaluated how they make their choices, they then have to consider the environmental consequences of that. We give them various tools to do that, including an ecological footprint calculator. This is one of the resources that are at students' disposal. It's well documented, as the Union of Concerned Scientists in the United States has shown, that as per capita income goes up, so too does meat consumption. And a lot of the deforestation in the Brazilian Amazon, for example, is being driven by beef production to feed the developed world. And also increasingly China, the rise of a middle class in China has led to a vast increase in the global production of meat. And this has important environmental consequences because meat has a larger ecological footprint than growing vegetables, for example. Students then have to consider how they can change. They have to grade their choices. This is an example from our VLE. And incidentally, this is a work in progress. You'll see that in the top left-hand corner, 4 pages contain editor comments. We're actually going through the quality control process on this, and an independent editor has commented and given us some points to think about before we actually go live with this particular page to students. Some actions are quite easy to take, and they're easy to carry out, although their impacts might be small, as in A. C and D indicates the more difficult actions to carry out. B is the actions that we suggest students might want to concentrate on, those actions that are easy to carry out and will realise significant environmental improvements if implemented. Now, I think it's fair to say that some 10 years ago, we wouldn't have sought to engage our students in thinking through their own food choices in the way we have. We would perhaps have just taught this in terms of globalisation, done traditional international political economy analysis, for example, and considered alternatives such as fair trade labelling and grow your own. But we're actually thinking of, we actually want to engage students in how they act in relation to the natural world and to think through what they do and how they can make a difference. Okay? So that's one quite simple example. The next example I'd like to share with you is an international negotiation simulation. This was a master's module that we ran, in which students worked with 2 roles. As students, they were studying theories of negotiation and theories of international cooperation, very much as objective social scientists, standing back, analysing politics and policy-making processes as observers and thinking how they could explain outcomes. But there was a second and important role as well, and that was as a negotiator. We ran a live simulation which students assumed the role of delegates that had to set out to negotiate at the United Nations an international convention on forests. And we gave them various profiles to work from. Now, as we heard yesterday from Dr. Mohammed Mali of Lebanon, students can face great challenges understanding theory and that practical methods are necessary for learning. Simulation tools can help students engage in deep learning, and I believe the phrase that Dr. Mali used was, "Involve me and I will learn." Well, that's what we found here, is that we're teaching students negotiation theories and theories of international cooperation, but their involvement as negotiators embeds this learning at quite a deep level. They can internalize it more effectively than if they're just learning as students. So we get students to think about the reflexive relationship between theory and practice. As I say, we've got two bodies of theory. There's the theories of how to negotiate, in particular, Fisher and Urey's seminal distinction between principal bargaining and positional bargaining, theories of international cooperation such as power-based theories, interest-based theories, and cognitive theories. But students just don't use these to explain. There is a practice, that is the simulation, and students find that using theory will enable reflective participation in the negotiations. But there's another aspect as well, and that is through using theory in the negotiations will lead students to think reflectively on the use of theory for explaining. So there's an iterative relationship between theory and practice. One of the examples we use to teach this is international financial speculation. For example, if a market player is to enter a market, they need to stand back, they need to analyse market movements, they need to consider which ways the market is moving, and when will be an opportune moment for them to enter the market as either a buyer or seller. So they're being objective and dispassionate in their analysis. But the moment they enter the market, they have ceased to be an objective analyst. They've become a subjective player with a vested stake in the negotiations. So this thinking of the relationship between theory and practice and how one's intervention may change the structure of a negotiation and how that other actors will respond to that we found can embed learning at quite a deep level. This is an example of one of the tools that students use, a concept map tool for working out a formula. We teach that a formula, be that a concept or a set of interlinked principles, can be essential in structuring negotiations and leading to a successful outcome. But this is the actual negotiation interface that students use. So there's a plenary room in which the main body of the negotiations is carried out. You'll notice that underneath the plenary in the top left-hand corner are two whisper spaces. I've worked at the United Nations on various UK delegations over the years, and one of the things I've found is that there's a lot of, as well as the formal negotiations, there's a lot of informal work going on with delegates perhaps stood at the back of the room engaged in whisper conversation. Now, if two delegates go into a whisper space, the protocols are that nobody else may enter, that they're having a private conversation. But people can see they're talking by clicking on the eye facility, opening it and seeing who's there. The corridor, however, is an open space which anybody can enter a conversation. Okay? And there are various working groups which text might be sent. At the UN, delegates will negotiate by disputing text. We see here that Article 7 has been disputed by Russia. There's no agreement on this. It's been sent to a working group. The text has now been imported back into the plenary. A vote has taken place. As we can see, everybody's voted yes. It doesn't always work that way in practice at the UN, believe me. But in this case, it's worked very well. So this is how the interface that we give students to work with. We are not teaching them to negotiate. We don't assess their skills as negotiators. The simulation is purely to enable them to internalise and gain a different perspective on the theory of the module. So, how am I doing for time? Okay. Okay, I'll take questions on that at the end if necessary. Moving on then to the third example, and that is climate modelling. we heard this morning that Professor Fritz Pannekoek of Athabasca University made a generous comment about citizen science teaching at the Open University. We heard about that from Professor Blackman yesterday, the iSpot application that we have. But another aspect of citizen science is teaching those who are not scientists to think about how scientists work, the methods they work with, how they grapple with uncertainty, and in order to understand this important area of environmental policy. We teach the science policy interface, and we want students to become engaged with how scientists work. Now, when we were making our third level international environmental course some 6 years ago, a documentary was screened on Channel 4 television called The Great Global Warming Swindle. Now, this claimed that anthropogenic climate change, global warming, is a fraud, that people are being lied to, that it is not happening. Okay, it was quite a shameless piece of journalism which set out to provide one side only in quite an aggressive way. On the course team that I was working on at the time, we had a discussion about this. We thought, how can we deal with this? Students are confused. This is one of the cartoons that we used, which shows some of the different views that students have of climate science. That the scientists can't agree themselves, that it's a hoax, that the Earth's climate's varied considerably over history. Why should we be concerned now? As you can see, the character at the front of this cartoon is confused. He's not really sure what to believe. There's so many different views going on. We thought we would teach our students to think a little bit more about how scientists model outcomes. So what happened was I got in touch with colleagues at the Meteorological Office in the United Kingdom and also at Reading University, and we designed a simulation comprised of 2 parts in which we show how scientists simulate the past, how they use various data sets to model what the climate would look like. There's an average temperature, the blue line there at 0 shows the average temperature between 1960 and 1990. That's the baseline year. So in the top left-hand corner, if I run the anthropogenic changes in greenhouse gas emissions, you can see it's going up. But there's natural changes as well, such as volcanic emissions. So I'm going to tick that box. Okay, we get a different set of data. And there's the direct aerosol effect, which, without boring you with the technicalities, is that when fine-grained particulate matter or sulfates in the atmosphere attract water droplets, which can have a cooling effect by reflecting sunlight back into space. Now, if we run now the empirical record, the red line is the empirical record, we can see that there's a bit of a match there between what the module is simulating. The indirect aerosol effect, which is how particulate matter will affect the reflectivity of clouds. I'm tweaking that, and we can see we've got a fairly good match there. It's not perfect, we wouldn't expect it to be. There's some vast complexities in the climate system with some complex feedback loops. But that's a reasonably good match. I think we can have a fair degree of certainty that the model is capturing many, though not all, of the dynamics of climate change. Having simulated the past and having a fairly high degree of confidence in the model, we look to the future and we run various scenarios for the future based on possible greenhouse gas emissions. IPCC-A is the most severe projection for climate change in the future, with a 5-degree centigrade warming this century. If we move down in the top left-hand corner to A1b, it's not quite so severe. B1 less severe too. WRE 450 shows the what the climate change would look like this century if we could cap the atmospheric concentration of greenhouse gases of 450 degrees parts 450 parts per million carbon dioxide equivalents. Okay, now this year we actually passed the 400 degrees parts per million concentration. The pre-industrial revolution was 280 parts, so it's gone up about a third in that time. That's quite significant. Constant would be if we could hold greenhouse gas, the atmospheric concentration of greenhouse gases at 2005 levels. Even then, you see that there is some increase. So we use this model to eliminate some of the confusion that students might feel on climate science, and also to teach them the uncertainty involved with science and how climate scientists and meteorologists have sought to grapple with this. Just about to finish, thank you very much. So I've given you 3 examples there of how we try to teach the environment, how we try to engage our students. There's 2 approaches to environmental education. We use the one on the left, environmental education, in which we want to increase public knowledge about environmental issues. We want students to think through how they can act as concerned citizens, as family members, as students, and as consumers. We don't want to tell them what to do, but we do want them to think through carefully what they do and give them options for the future. We teach about politics, but we don't have a political agenda. But we are also aware of the eco-pedagogy agenda, which is a more radical critique, which sets out to critique at quite a deep level politics, building on the works of Paulo Freire and Richard Kahn, and which critiques globalization and neoliberalism, and which is very much a political project. The Open University has not adopted an eco-pedagogy policy. I don't think we will, but we are aware of the debate, and it's helpful in thinking us to think through how we teach environmental issues and environmental studies to our students on what, as I said at the start, is the greatest public welfare issue, I think, of the 21st century, namely the degradation of the world in which we live. So thank you very much for your attention. Shukran. Assalamu alaikum.
Thank you, David, for being agreeable to my interventions. Our next speaker is Dr. Abdullah Muhammad Al-Ajmi. He's the Assistant Director for Academic Affairs at the Arab Open University in Kuwait. His background is anthropology, development, and globalization. Please, Abdullah.
Thank you, Dr. Ahmed. Thank you, Marwa and David. I can assure you from where I stand that the ice has melted already. I would like to thank Arab Open University for giving me this opportunity, and the Arab Fund organization for giving us this setting, lovely setting, a beautiful professional environment where we can exchange ideas. This presentation is based on kind of a long research that I did over 1 year probably, and it's quite large, and I'm trying to compress that in 35 slides. I'll be fast and read for you. The title is, as you see, is Open Learning as Development, the challenge of sustainability in the experience of the Arab Open University. I start from 2 central questions here. The first question is, why does the project of open learning seem inconsistent with the educational milieu in Kuwait, and what are the consequences of that? The second question is, because open learning is a tool for social development, i.e. the mission of AOU in general, can it be sustainable in the work of the Arab Open University in the Kuwait branch? If so, how? And my answer to this how is going to take a form of recommendations and practical suggestions. In fact, it's my conclusion. Okay, where did I get my evidence? Where is the data generated from? Different types of evidences. I get evidences which I call house evidence. These are internal evidences in which I used my personal experience. I've been born and raised in the Arab Open University in Kuwait since 2003, and I also surveyed my students and other students, my colleagues, faculty members, views, interviews, and also data. I use university data, quality assurance, surveys, numbers, statistics. The other type of evidence is I call external. These are semi-structured interviews from students from other universities, employees at the Ministry of Higher Education and the PUC, the Public Universities Council, Kuwait University also, and the Civil Service Authority, which is the Diwan al-Khidma and Diwan al-Mawdafin. The Ministry of Higher Education and the PUC, also I used their declared regulations, practices, policies, statistics, and so on. I used published works on education and development in the GCC, comparative open learning experiences in South Africa and Asian and African societies, also literature from there, and history and culture of education in Kuwait. These are this is where my data came from and where I build up my evidences for my argument. So my argument for the first question, which is why does open learning seem inconsistent in the Kuwaiti environment, education environment, consists of three propositions. Okay? The first proposition is that open learning seems inconsistent with the education milieu in Kuwait because open learning presents an alternative mode of education and different forms of knowledge, exchange, and production. Hence, as a result of that, the challenge of sustainability in Kuwait experience stems from the fact that the dominant system of education, that traditionally we call it sometimes formal, fixed, or conventional classroom education, that system precludes and disqualifies any alternative mode of education. My second proposition for the first argument, to answer my first question, is that the concepts and practices of development in general, development through learning and education, i.e. as represented by the Arab Open University, has not been established or vaguely understood among state planners, I mean the Kuwaiti state planners, and resonates very little appreciation in the Kuwaiti public discourse. Therefore, misconception, misunderstanding about the meaning, processes, and objectives of open learning as a serious educational scheme in the Arab Open University in Kuwait is also reflected in some academic cultures and in the bureaucratic regulations, constraints, and obstructions made by the MOHE and the PUC, specifically those related to OL outcomes in Kuwait. And everybody knows what OL, any education outcomes means. Proposition 3, I'm trying to answer the first question, which is why open learning seems inconsistent in the dominant education environment education in Kuwait, is this: despite the misconceptions and the uneasy bureaucratic regulations, as the only non-profit private university in Kuwait, AOU has the largest student population, and this is a kind of a contradiction amongst all other private institutions. Besides the national accreditation, AOU Kuwait is also the only internationally accredited institution in its locality through the OUVS. However, I propose that while these distinguishing features are very important, very instrumental for the university's future, the challenge of sustainability originates mainly from external pressure made by MOHE and PUC operation, which relentlessly, constantly drives AOU away from flexibility and openness and development objectives towards the realm of fixed traditional system of education and classroom instructions. Now, my second argument, which is my answer to the second question, which is, will AOU be sustainable, consists of two propositions. The first proposition is this: AOU KWT as an open learning institution can be sustainable only when providing its education services as just another mode of education, of acquiring knowledge, and as a place for individual opportunity and enhancement, not as a different education and paradigm in Kuwait. This is one of the fears that this is one of the most important recurrent statements I hear from people in the official sector, that this is a different system. You are presenting a different system, while we are presenting actually, we are providing different mode of education, not a whole different system. Okay. Why this is so? Why I'm saying that we only need to make clear that we are presenting a mode of education, not a different system. This is because the Open University in Kuwait has not yet been very successful in exemplifying the necessary connection between its objective values, which is inspiring social development, and its actual services in open learning, like flexibility, open to all individuals and places, quality education, and so on and so forth. So the connection between the objectives and what we actually do is not clear there. We did not express that clearly to other institutions and to also the bureaucratic institutions. Now, my second proposition for my argument, which is my answer to the second question, which is the question was, will AOU Kuwait be sustainable in the future? My proposition is, presently, the need for Kuwait expertise in OL, in open learning generally, is minimal in the Kuwaiti environment. Now, AOU Kuwait has never been partnering with OL, open learning, local community, if any. Actually, there is no open learning community in Kuwait. And consequently, has not been the hub of any such community in Kuwait. I propose that the Open University design of such community shall reinforce its role in the predominant conventional system of education while maintaining its distinctiveness and achievement. Now, how shall AOU KWT deal with the challenge of sustainability? Now, sustainability doesn't mean that it's going to vanish, it's going to disappear. It has different meanings. Sustainability is how are you going to perform very well. Okay, I propose something I call the AAAC, which is a future framework for our university to kind of a guiding concept, which means, first A means acknowledge. The AAU needs to acknowledge that the challenge of sustainability is a constant exposure for any similar organization with a development character. We need to assess that obstacles as being part of an overall problem facing any new or creative mode of education in formal traditional education context. This is just normal. We need to adapt. AOU needs to adapt to its environment and introduce its practices as part of local communities' well-being and progress, not as just an education institution. We have an objective, we have a mission. We want to help our societies progress. We have to make this clear. The last thing is capitalize. We need to capitalize, to invest, in our peculiar position. Actually, it's a unique position within the Kuwaiti environment, and we use the challenges, these challenges that we were facing, as inspiration for more success, not as frustration. So how do I put that into practice, this framework? I put the AAAC framework in the forms of recommendations and practice suggestions. First is, the Open University must expound its mission and objectives as education for sustainable development more clearly by adhering to the rationales of its establishment and the work of the AgFund organization. The AgFund is the umbrella development organization, which is the Arab Gulf for development. And AOU must also play a leading role in the regional and local efforts for education reforms as called for by UNESCO and the UNDP, namely to spread the use of open learning. The UNESCO and the UNDP clearly launched many different projects to publicize open learning. And they tried this in different societies, and they were successful. Because the Open University holds to a plus in its resourceful and systematic use of open learning technologies as against conventional methods, it needs to reach out for people of different professions who desire to learn but are unable to attend actual classes. Thus, open learning facilitates lifelong learning processes for these professionals to adapt practices and philosophies of open learning as sustainable development. Although training functions at the heart of any open learning program, training at AOU KWT remains very minimal at the moment. But it is here where the communities and various types of learners and their needs may be assessed and satisfied. Therefore, I think that AOU KWT shall focus on vocational and life skill acquisitions through its study programs and training schemes, by which reaching out occasional learners who seek career promotions and meet job requirements. We have never did that. We never did that. So I'm calling for this as a strategy for the challenge of facing challenge of sustainability. Cooperation with relevant government organizations must not be excluded. That doesn't mean if we have problem with the MOHE or regulations, strict regulations, or PUC or whatever, that we exclude any other forms of cooperations. We need to find common ground allowing for the inclusion of sustainable development contents and open learning materials into their educational programs and values. The Open University in Kuwait must therefore assess the government needs in all aspects of education. If you remember, last month the Diwan al-Khidma al-Madaniyya launched a huge project where they want to teach all employees how to use open learning or to use open systems. And I was surprised that we were not called for that. As such, I think when we do that cooperation and we assess the government needs, the Open University will be using its technological as well as interactive approach, hence adapting to its environment and capitalizing on its distinctiveness. We offer only 3 academic programs. Such is very limiting to learners' options to pursue different subjects of their interest, and so is inconsistent to its development objectives. What are our objectives? Accelerating social and cultural progress by widening individual options for flexible and open education. So, given the rapid changes in the Arab world, the Open University in Kuwait must react and reflect on its surrounding, making the values of the sustainable development of equality and civil society reflected in the design of new programs on development, environment, cultural studies, health, and global changes. Bureaucratic regulations confine the OU of Kuwait education process into one building campus, which severely injures the basic function of any university, particularly those of open learning mission. Now, as I said, an important open learning concept is to make education available to as many individuals as possible by taking knowledge to their communities without centers. I mean, we need all open institutions in the world, open learning institutions in the world have centers spread around the country or any locality. But we are not so far allowed to do this. I can say that without centers, AOU can still offer open learning resources and carry its message at one of the MOHE adult learning program centers in the municipalities. مناطق كثيرة في مراكز تعليم الكبار. We can introduce something and we can participate in that. Sorry, just 3 minutes. All right, I'll hurry up. Okay. Today, substantial numbers of Kuwaitis and foreigners alike enter the job market right after completing their 12th grade high schools. Only flexibility and openness made the Arab Open University their first choice, first option for these individuals. It was mainly through the flexible and open system at Open University in Kuwait that these students were able to study while working. Now, the challenge for the Open University here is how to capitalize on this to make open learning an important tool for individual and national economic development, and therefore included in the official policies for admission and scholarship. One last point. We should establish a local formal channel of seeking funding from Kuwaiti philanthropic institutions, professional societies, individual firms, government and non-governmental agencies, and trade and industry groups. To do so, we probably need to build a framework which congregates those funding entities into a focus group tied through mutual objectives or projects that directly meet the needs of such organizations and the members they serve. A partnership model, I suggest and others suggest, would probably be the most effective path for KWT. In the challenge of sustainability, what does that mean? It means reinforce quality reputation through affiliate support. International regional development organizations stationed in Kuwait, such as the UNESCO, UNDP, Arab Fund, IOM, working in the field of sustainable development need to be approached by us, not only as similar in objective to the Arab Open University, but as important supporters for the only project seeking development through open education in Kuwait. What do we need? We need a consortium joining the AOU, the UNESCO, and the UNDP, which will help in sharing the resources and in strengthening the quality of open learning products and help to endure the mission of open learning. Okay. Thank you very much. I think I was jumping.
Thank you, Dr. Abdullah. Now we move to Ms. Haneen Shalbaya. Haneen has an MA degree in English language from University of Jordan in literature, and she's a tutor and a course coordinator at Arab Open University in Kuwait, while she's working on her PhD. Haneen, please.
Good afternoon, everyone. My presentation today is about teaching English at Arab Open University through learning management systems. Actually, it's an assessment study from the researcher's perspective, and I would like to thank Mr. Mohammed Farran because he carried out this collaborative study with me. Now, before I move into my topic, I would just like to say that nobody can deny that the success of e-learning and distant learning in Arab Open University in all its branches is attributed to the learning management system. Since its implementation in Bahrain in 2004, and then 2 years later it was implemented in Kuwait and the other branches, it has proved its success. Now, what are the learning management systems? They are web-based software application that is designed specifically to help instructors meet their pedagogical goals of delivering learning content to students. At the beginning of implementation, the LMS, which you can see a page of, the idea behind implementing it in AOU was specifically to facilitate communication between administrators and students, and then students and instructors at the same time. If you look at the page, this is the page of Mr. Mohammed Farran, my colleague in this paper. It is made up of 3 sections. The first column on the left has the AOU e-library, which we will talk about in detail later on. It has the main page setting, and the courses that Mr. Farran teaches. For the student, of course, he has all the courses he's enrolled in. The column in the middle is always changing because it has the advertisements, upcoming events, and always reminders for the students and news. On the right side, we have the LMS support. We have the calendar, which we'll talk about in a nutshell. And then we have the messages that we receive and we can reply to. Now, after implementing LMS in AOU, all branches, we discovered that LMS provides us more features than the one which we talked about, which is facilitating communication between administrators, students, and teachers and students. We have 11 features. I hope we haven't forgotten any of these features. The first and the most important one is the instant messaging and emailing, which, LMS at AOU provides asynchronous and synchronous, communication. Students and all users can send and receive messages instantly, and what is nice about it is that it is always delivered to your email account. The second feature is uploading material, and this is widely used extensively by the teachers. They can upload files, documents, images. They can even embed, videos, share links with their students, so the students doesn't need to go, and look for these links. He can simply click on these, which are uploaded by the teacher. Virtual classes is also beneficial in LMS, and we have here two kinds of virtual classes: synchronous, which we call video streaming, and now we have over all the branches we are making video streaming for the major courses. The students who cannot make it and come physically, because you know that our students are, most of them, employees, so sometimes they cannot make it and come to the university, so they can access the class or the lecture through video streaming from his destination. The second type is the video recorded classes, and this is what I'm doing now in the course that I teach, which is EL 111. We video film the lecture, and the students can access it later on, And I think that this is beneficial because not only students who are incapable of attending the class physically can make use of it, but other students who has low performance in class can go back to this class, watch it again and again until they absorb the whole information which the tutor has covered so far in class. The e-library, in the LMS offers wide range of online e-journals and e-books, and it also gives us the opportunity to request material which is not existing there, so we can make a request. Grades can be posted on the LMS, and we can provide also feedback, not only the grades, so the student can identify the points of weaknesses that they have. And the calendar, which I showed you on the right column of the page. And in the calendar, the tutors use these calendar just to remind the students of the upcoming events, the deadlines, the class assignments, and the submission of assignments, so they are always ready in advance to meet the deadlines. Private file storage is, again, crucially important in LMS at AOU. This can be helpful for both the instructor and the student. Our university gives 5 to 10 mega storage capacity for each student, where he can save securely his class presentations, any material, his memos, any content that he would like to use and to retrieve to at any time. The teacher as well, instead of every semester changing the course material, he can make updates, but it's already stored in his file storage, and we call this lock books. Group chat is another effective feature of LMS. The LMS allows up to 30 users simultaneously to communicate, and this is helpful because it encourages students who are shy and reserved. It gives them a voice, Sometimes, as my colleagues know, that students are always hesitant to participate in class. So through the group chat, they can participate, they can ask questions, they can receive answers either from their tutor or, from their other colleagues. And my colleague, Mr. Ferran, is making group chat every Friday for his sections, and it showed, and it proved that it was really effective. And it also gives the opportunity for the teacher as well to discuss thoroughly some of the points that, because of the class time limitations, we cannot cover thoroughly, so we can, elaborate on this through the group chat. Discussion forums also allows users to post their comments and receive a reply to these comments. Plagiarism checker helps students a lot, as well as teachers, because it checks for them through Turnitin module how to make sure that they have documented the resources in the research as well. And again, it helps the instructor as well to check if the student has documented the sources that he's using in his research, or he has just copied and pasted from other resources. The last feature of the LMS is the glossary. And the glossary, is used mainly, with students. They can add all their expressions, definitions, idioms in a list and keep it stored, which they can retrieve to when they are preparing for their exams and quizzes. Now, regardless of all of these features, still there are some limitations, which hinder the full realization of the LMS potential at AOU. We can make more benefits, we can benefit more extensively from the LMS, which is available to us. And the first limitation is the issue of adaptation. And I mean by adaptation here, creating a learner experience that purposely adjusts to various conditions. I mean by various conditions, personal characteristics, pedagogical knowledge, the learner interaction, and the outcome of the actual learning process. These various conditions, along with the intention to increase a predefined success criteria, which is mainly reflected in the effectiveness of the e-learning and the students' satisfaction. For this limitation, we have come up with 3 solutions, and of course the door is open to more solutions in the future we will think of. The first one is, we thought of, why don't we merge LMS with other social network systems, such as Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram? And some of you may ask, how is this going to be beneficial? Specifically in teaching English, we said that teaching is an interaction, between among learners, So by using Facebook, Twitter, and Instagram, we give the opportunity for the students to be introduced to other cultures, to communicate with other users, on these social network systems, and to use their language and to enhance their communication skills. We also suggest to design a content of the LMS, that is acceptable on small screens. So that students do not always need to go to carry their laptops or to go to their PCs to see the content material which is displayed on LMS. So we hope that the IT department are going to work on this in the future, inshallah, and make it accessible through their smartphones, because, students, needs everything that is easier for them and faster to access. We also suggest allowing import and export of content to and from online educational systems. And of course, we have online website for Oxford, we have digital learning platform. Why don't we import all of these educational systems into the LMS so the students are not confused and they don't need to go to many websites just to search and to acquire knowledge. The second limitation is that LMS does not support the social constructivist approach, an approach which always looks at learning process as a social and active process in which learners should learn how to solve their problems without necessarily referring back to their teacher or asking others for help. So what we suggest here as a solution is that the LMS in AOU should be empowered with self-governed activities through LMS by providing students with tools, And one of these tools that we suggest is to give online support. And I mean by online support, around the clock, Not only how to change your password, which we already have. Now, after exploring all of the LMS features and their limitations and the ways to maximize the benefits of limitations, still there is a final concern that educators, instructors, researchers, and institutions should really think of. While we were carrying out our research, we have discovered that most of the literature review overlooks the students' engagement with the LMS. We don't know how much are they engaged. We don't know if they really, access all of them, if they access the LMS or not. And in my courses, although we always encourage our students to use the LMS, some of them have never accessed the LMS. So we need to study this. We don't need only to study, the features of the LMS. We need to study how to maximize the benefits, how to encourage students. And for that, we recommend further future research in these areas. We suggested, that a research should be carried out about online survey for students learning English at AOU. And this survey should, measure the satisfaction of students through studying the gap, measuring the gap between their expectations of the LMS, what is supposed to give them, and the real perception of LMS after trying it. The second paper that we, or research that we recommend is to detect learning styles in LMS which are gathered from the students' behaviors. And I hope that these presentations or researches are going to be carried in the future, and I'll work with my colleague and other colleagues. The door is open. We welcome any trial for this. And this is all about my presentation. Okay, thank you for listening to me, and if there's any question, I'll be happy to entertain it for you. Thank you.
Thank you, Haneen. Now we can open the floor for questions, comments, up to 4 people, because we have time limitation and we started late. Now I'm going to take this lady here. Go ahead, please.
Thank you very much for these enlightening presentations. And one question was asked by Ms. Manar was, would you actually adopt the avatar's second life or in our teaching to our students at, for example, the Arab Open University? I wouldn't, because about 3 years back, I tried to use it to see the potential of using it particularly for the English language studies. What I realized that it distracted me personally from the educational, the ones that's uploaded that we can download. But if there is one specifically designed for each, with its educational, let's say, a target aimed at students, yes, definitely I would adopt it. All right?
I appreciate what you did. Actually, that's why I'm asking to build our island, our AOU island with our AOU campus. Instead of being an isolated branches, we can be only one island. And this is done already by the Open University of UK. It has 2 islands, the Open University Island and the Utopia Island. And it's doing great.
Gentleman here, please.
As you all know, I contributed to the writing of the paper, and I just want... I'm sorry, but I wanted to answer...
She's one of the authors.
I'm a co-author.
You asked me at first, and please go ahead.
Dr. Shakra, your question is very much valid, but we can really tailor whatever material and whatever animation that we want to include on that program, in the sense that medicine students can really dive into organs of the body. In the sense of literature students or linguistics students can really do whatever it needs without the deviation or the distraction that you were talking about, without too much music, too much animation, and so on.
Thank you. Please.
Thank you, Professor Bashara. Thank you very much, Dr. Marwa, for your very, very active lecture and presentation.
Thank you, Doctor. Thank you, Doctor, so much. This is a pleasure. Thank you.
Well, however, how can you convince a traditional mind, not a tough mind like me, for your future world? But bear in your mind, if you are not convinced them, don't confuse them.
Sure. Okay, you are talking about which minds? The new generations? Actually, with the second life? This is a piece of cake, because actually new generations like interaction and engagements. They like to be part. They like cartoons. They like games. They are going now toward Twitters and Facebooks. صح؟ الناس دي بتحب تلعب games. بتحب تكون على الانترنت تكنولوجي على طول. What about telling them that you will be a part of the game, but instead of any game it will be an educational game. لو قلت لك مثلا انت علشان تسلم التيم A بتاعك you can go and handed it وانت راكب الجاguar بتاعتك. It is a virtual world. لو قلت لك ان انت هتبقى قاعد في الكلاس virtually، يعني قاعد في بيتكو وحاضر الكلاس بتاعك، هيرتاح لانه هو مرتاح، مش هيروح بقى ينزل ويروح مشوار ومش عارف ايه، وفي نفس الوقت هياخد كل النولج اللي هو عايزها. مش هيحتاج ان هو يدخل in the e-learning system يدور على الماتيريال لوحده، يعمل داونلود للماتيريال، لا، ده هو قاعد في بيته، ممكن يكون في السرير ودكتوره عمال بيشرح قدامه. So it's very easy to convince the generations. Thank, Thank you, Doctor.
Kind of confusion. It's a wonderful presentation, Ms. Shelby. Yes, Shelby. You have done a wonderful presentation about LMS. Right from the beginning, I'm having some slight confusion between this LMS and Moodle. What I understood about LMS is a learning management system, or we can say managing learning through system, right? And Moodle is a kind of software which is being used for managing learning, right? Is that correct? Is there any other software or available which can be used?
Yes.
Do you have any knowledge about that?
Yeah, there are a lot, but the one that the university, the AOU University is using is Moodle.
I see. And apart from this, I would like to add one more thing. If it is Moodle, I feel that even Moodle can be used for assessing and monitoring students' performance. And apart from this, even blogs, as you said, blogs are even a part of Moodle, but I feel that their usage is widely neglected in our, AOU LMS system.
Mm-hmm.
This is what I would like to share.
Actually, okay, my colleague, Mr. Ferran, is using blogs, and he's trying to enhance, using blogs and encouraging his students. And I have had access to this, and it was really helpful, and I'm planning to use this as well. This is what we aim, we aim at enlighten the tutors as well as the students with all the potential of the LMS and how to maximize the benefits. So it is neglected, yes, I agree with you, and inshallah we are trying, to improve, using it and maximizing the benefits.
Thank you very much. Thank you very much.
Good afternoon. My question is for Ms. Haneen Shalbaya. Even the feature of LMS provide instant messaging between the tutor and the students. I can see that something new coming in the way that our students are using WhatsApp as a way of communication between them, and they are inviting us to join their groups as a way of communication. So how can we control, because we can tell them the LMS is a way of the formal way of communication, but WhatsApp is still the informal way.
Yes, you can use WhatsApp, you can use any other material. What we are aiming at, WhatsApp, it doesn't contradict with the LMS. In the contrary, it enhances, the communication amongst students and their teacher. We use group, actually I use with my students, a WhatsApping group. So it's helpful, you know what, because as I said, some students have never, attempted entering the LMS, and I always check, and I see how many times did the students, tried. And I was just talking, with my colleagues before the presentation that some of the students keep asking me and coming during office hours and saying, regardless, although we give them online office hours, they insist on coming face-to-face interaction. And they said, you know what, this is easier. Khalas, I will ask my, my classmates. So for some of them, they are hesitant to use, e-learning and the technology. So WhatsApp will help them and make it easier for them.
Okay, I'm going to take 3 speakers.
Hello, Mr. Astaz speaking. My question is to Ms. Haneen. You mentioned that tutors can upload materials on LMS. Are these materials from the same textbooks? Then I don't think there is a change. And what are the materials that you think are better to enhance students' capabilities and abilities?
Okay, this is a good question. Of course, it's not from the book because there is no need for it. It's in the book. Why to upload it? What we have done here in the course which I coordinate, EL 111, we teach the students how to write an essay. And to be sincere and honest, the textbook that we teach focuses on reading and writing, but it doesn't submit enough material on how to write an essay specifically. So what we did is that I just provided a material for the students. Every week we teach them something which is external. It's not covered in the textbook, but it helps them directly, to write a full-fledged essay. And we upload this material every time. At the beginning, the idea was as a workshop, and we saw that giving this workshop for 5 hours, with one break, it was too much for the students to absorb in one workshop. So that's why we decided this semester that no, every single week, whenever I send the teachers the lesson plan, we give this extra material, and it is uploaded, on the LMS. So every class, they learn something, how to write, for example, what is the structure of the essay. Then next week, they learn how to write an introduction, then a thesis statement, then a body, then, and then every week after we have taught them before the midterm how to write a full essay, now we are planning after the midterm, starting from next week, we teach them extra material, the kinds of essay. And of course, all the extra materials are not in the book, but they are truly beneficial for the students, and they enhance the learning objectives that we target.
Gentlemen here and gentlemen there. Please go ahead.
Thank you. I have a suggestion to Haneen. Your presentation is really very interesting. I would like to say that there are many tutors who really don't know the secrets of the LMS until now. So it will be a very good idea if you can translate your suggestions or the functions of the LMS into training courses for our tutors, so they will learn more how to make the virtual classes, how to deal. How to make the open learning more reliable. It's really very good, and we would like really to know from you and your colleague Mohammed Farran what are the secrets of LMS, so we can share with you the experience. Okay, thank you. I have a question to Ms. Marwa Sharawi, please, if you don't mind. Okay.
Over there.
Oh, hello. First of all, I'd like to say thank you very much for all the presentations. It was great. But my question for Ms. Muna, I think she was talking about e-learning, virtual learning, and blended learning. At the end, we are all working for the society. You have to know about the society. Know all the society familiar with the computer. What do you think? What's the solution for now for the blended learning or virtual learning, or the other one? Which one the best solution for the society?
None considered to be the best.
Sorry?
I said the solution. None is considered to be the best. The best is to make our optimal solution.
But yeah,
is to blend the three of them.
But excuse me, let me.
Yes,
but
sure.
The things you are not working for new generation. How about the old generation, or know all the student or more of the citizen of the staff? They don't know computer very well. They are not familiar with the computer. You don't have to ignore part of the society.
Sure.
You are not working for just some people. You have to work for all the people. I think blended learning is the best for now. What I was thinking, I don't know. Are you with me or not?
No, sorry.
Why?
I will tell you. If you are talking about the old sector or the old people, so these people prefer the traditional way of learning, the classical one, which is a face-to-face. And this is covered with a certain percentage in the blended learning style, right?
Yes.
Okay, if you are talking about the new generation or the generation which is in the middle, some of them are preferring the e-learning styles, which is provide the material for me online and I will take it whenever it's needed, right? Okay, the coming generations, which is the generation of Facebook, of WhatsApp, of Twitter, and so on, and gamification as well, those generation want things to be much more easy and virtualized. So in order to give them the chance to teach or the chance to be well educated, we have to give them the same knowledge on their way, which is the virtualization. In order to make this a great mixture to cover the whole population that we have, I recommend to do the blend system with the 3 styles, because this enabling us to make face-to-face tutoring and meeting, as well as providing all the materials online for the e-learning concept, as well as increase the engagement and the participation and the gamification as well, while enhancing all the educational process.
Yeah, thank you.
Okay.
Okay, thank you very much, everybody, and the session is over. And I'd like to thank all the speakers and the participants, and anybody who has any further question may stay behind and talk to the speaker. Thank you.